Okay. In our last class, we had done the basics. We look at the list. Any questions from the last class? And if you have any questions, you can chat me in or ask me. Both should be fine. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Just 1 minute. I think let me put my earphone. It will be better. Otherwise, it will be equal. Sorry for that. Okay, now I'm fine. In case of any problem, just let me know. So today we'll basically look at strings, which are treated as list, but there's a little difference. A few other special properties. And then we also look at looping. And the reason I say look at the looping, because most of us see people making a mistake when to use a for loop and when to use a while loop. Looping is basically when you to repeat things, but sometimes I see people using for loop even though it should be while and vice versa. And as usual, we'll do exercises as before, and that's what we'll do. So let's look at what really a string is. A string you can treat as a list which consists of any alphabetic characters. I will not go into details of Python 2 and Python 3. Python 3 goes Unicode, and that could be a separate lecture altogether. So let me cover the essentials, and then we can get into the Unicode part of the details. So let's say we are saying I define a variable. Variable is a name. Variable is a name, and value happens to be Python. You can put either single quote or put double quote. If single quote is part of your data, let's say I want to say my name is Python's features. I just want to do that. If I were to say my name is Python's feature, so I will say double quote Python single quote Python's feature. If you want to make something of this kind, the quote is part of your data, then use the other parts as the starting and ending string. That's what you to make sure. In this case, this single quote is part of the data. The double quotes are making a string, or vice versa is what you can really do about. Now, same as in this list, length gives you the length of the string, whatever data you got. And then if I say name 2, it will give me character at index 2. So name 2 will give me letter T. Name 3 colon 5 will give me index 3 and 4, which is H and O. So name 3 and 5 would basically give me H and O. And similarly, name colon -1. Any thoughts what this would give me? We talked about list yesterday. What does a -1 indicate with this double colon gap?
Reverse.
Reverse. It will give me the reverse. So starting from backward, -1 each position. So this will print NOHTYP. This is what it will print. And name 2 is to colon 2. What this will give me?
Nothing.
No. Remember, it is double colon. Starting from 2,
Okay. Alternate.
every second character. Anyone, what it will give me? Starting from 2, 0, 1, 2.
It will give T and O. T and O.
Give T and O. This is first 2.
Yeah.
And then after every second character O, and I'm done. So my answer would be T and O. That is what you need to look at. 2 colon -1. Starting from 2.
TYP.
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 Yeah. That's what you need to basically look at. Other thing that the strings gives you something called a split function. So let's say I have a split. If I don't pass any parameter to the split, it takes these spaces. If I don't pass any parameter, it takes these spaces as a split. It split the string and gives me a list. If I were to pass something, then it will take that as listing of characters and split accordingly. So let's say, let me do an example there. Let me,
Excuse me, sir. How does split work?
yeah, so I'm just giving the example. This is what I'm trying to give you. So let's say I use this example. I don't want to type in there. So this is my Python. I say copy pasting it to make sure the character is single quote, because my presentations make quotes more presentation like this is my names. And if I say names dot split dot any parameter, it will take these spaces and give me a list of 5 names: Abhiraj, Srizna. Look at this. So I can say x is equal to names split, and if I print x, so x0 would be Abhiraj, x3 would be Anuj, and so on and so forth. Are we okay with it?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Names is this. If I were to say, let's say y is names dot split, and I want to split on character A, then it will look at each A. First A, there is nothing, empty, then you see BHIR, then A, then J space SRUJN, then space again, then DITY. So let's look, this is what it is, and print Y. So before A, there was nothing, just empty string. Then after, between A and BHIR, this is my second part. Then between this A and you have a J space SRUJN, so J space SRUJN, and between A and A you have an empty space. That's why I got empty space. So remember, this is different than this. This is a null string, and this is a string with single space character, and so on, so forth. I can do, I believe, with splitting 2 as well. Let's say Z is equal to, I would say split AD, or do I do something else? Let me AN. Now what it will give me? Anything, thoughts?
Sir, it will be Abhiraj,
No,
Sujana.
no, AN. So it will be this. Abhiraj to Aditya would be one part. UJ to VDA would be another part. So let's look at print that. So look here, till AN, this is my first AN, this is my first string, this is what you see here. Then after AN, QJ till next AN, which is this. And then after you get T, so thing. So depending on how do you want to split, you have to basically make sure that this is how the split works. Any questions on the split part? I'm done with this, so let me move on. Other thing one has to notice that strings are immutable. When I say strings are immutable, that means string cannot be changed. Remember list, we said list can be changed, but string cannot be modified. You can overwrite a string variable which is different, but string content cannot be changed. That basically means, let's say my name is Python, and then if I were to say name 0, I'm changing the value of the string first location, this will give me error. Let me just try to show that as well. Let's say names 0, I want to make it capital. I say capital A. This will give me error. Because string is immutable, I cannot change. Understand that part. That's the meaning of immutable part, which cannot be changed. True string can be added. When you do this, it creates a new string. Like I can add Python plus programming and make a course. So this gives me true string, and this is Python plus program. So catenation adding gives me new string. Other beautiful part with this is, which is true for list as well, you multiply string by a number. So let's say name star 3, it will join 3 times. So let me just go back. So let's say my name is equal to Python, and then I say print name star 3, you will see Python repeating 3 times. If I were to say name star 5, this will be fine. But other way out will not work. This will give you error. Oh, this works? Okay. I didn't know that. You're basically multiplying that string by 5 times, and that's the way the string multiplication would work. You can iterate over a string like a list. And what to iterate in a list, either element and something or your indexing. So both ways, either latter or you can indexing. So let me go back. So my name, if you look at, can you guys see my terminal screen easily?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if I can say for letter in name, I can say print letter, it will print py in each separate line. It's same way what you do it, because name is treated as a list, or I can treat with the index. I can say for index in range length of name, and then I would say print. Now index goes from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I could say name index, and I'll get the same thing. So depending on how do you want to proceed, you make a choice and then go with that part. Other operations, you can compare two strings, like compare two variables. And if you compare, it will look for equality. One string. So comparison is always lexicographical order. That means you compare letter by letter, and if one string is smaller or one letter comes before, it will give you comparison less than, equal to, less than, -1, greater than, equal to 0, and then or true. That's what comes equal to comparison would be. You can compare less than, equal to, and all that would be fine. But now look here, if I were to do this, name is equal to language would be true, but name is equal to language 2. Here it is capital P. If you look at, this is capital P and this is small p. So name is, when compare name with language, it will not succeed, it will be false. Whereas if I compare name with this language, it will find, because both are same. So understand that part. The comparison is always case sensitive, and that's the work. You can do a case convert. Now when you do this kind of operations, it returns a new string. It does not change the current string. So let me just give you what I'm trying to say there. So let's say my name is Python. I say x is equal to name dot upper. X will have all capital case, but name would still be the same. So string is not changed because string is immutable. And same way, lowercase, I can say x dot lower. It will give me small Python, but this is again a new string, but x still remains the capital. So lower, upper, this returns a new string, and is not the same thing. Same is true capitalize. If I say name dot capitalize, capitalize means first letter will be capital, but name still remains small python. So these functions, so somewhere you have to be a little careful where the they in place or they work basically return. So most of the time, any string operations always gives you new string because the string happens to be immutable. You cannot change the string content. If you want to look at all the methods what the string supports, in fact, for any operation, any call you want to look at, you can just say dir and let's say name. It will give you list of all the method that is supported, like you can say capitalize, center, index, is alpha numeric, is alpha. So if I were to say, look at name dot is alpha, true because all letters are alpha, or is decimal, is ASCII, is digit. If I say name dot is digit, it will be false because there's no digit there. So you can look at those aspects and work under those. Sorry. Further, this normally happens when you read data from a file. There are a lot of spaces. Sometimes people enter spaces in the beginning and at the end, and you want to process it and remove the spaces in the beginning or at the end. So there's a function called name.strip. It will basically remove the spaces in the beginning and spaces at the end, whatever those spaces are. And if you want to remove only spaces at the beginning, it's called left strip. Want the spaces only at the end, it is a right strip, and that's the way it will basically work. Now, if I say name dot replace, py becomes capital Pi, will search for a string, does that. So let's look at few of these functions. Name dot replace on language, so it need not be of the same size. So it will become what this part you want to replace and what is being replaced. So let's look at go there. Let's say name is equal to 2 spaces Python 1 2 3 4 spaces. If I were to say name dot L strip, it will remove the left spaces but retain the right ones, and you see those. But name still keep the same thing. Similarly, name dot right strip will remove the right part, but they always return a new string. They are not changing the string. Please understand, make that part. If I were to say name dot strip, it will remove both. So you however, I can do the following. I can say name dot strip. Now what is happening? Name dot strip has returned me a new string, and that new string has been assigned to the name. Is something like, let's say name is equal to Python. Now I say name is equal to C++. So I'm overwriting this value, so this string is gone, creating a new string and assigning that new string to the name. So, don't string immutable means does not mean I cannot assign a new string. Immutable means that content of the particular string cannot be changed. That's the difference one has to understand and note that. Similarly, you can look for suffix and prefix. Something starts with, something ends with. You can check with those. Those are the practice you need to do. With that, you can look at the function, as I said again, explore yourself. Like I said, dir, name tells you all these functions available. You can look at those, experiment with, and then you understand that part. So I'm not going to explore, but you can figure out, like title will basically replace first, convert first letter of each word in a sentence to the capital letter, and so on and so forth. So explore those. Now let me come back to the loop. Loop basically meaning, as we saw, when you want to repeat some statement number of times, we loop it, and there are two kinds of loop. One is called a while loop, other is called a for loop. And typically any loop, if you look at, there are three things there. One is the condition, one is what you want to execute, and other is how many times you want to do that. That determines at what level iteration you want to do. So for loop, the three things. So basically you look at the condition. If condition is true, execute the body. change the variable as part of a condition, and then check again, and as long as it is true, you should be fine. And the moment condition become false, you come out of the loop. That is typically what would happen. So if we want to look at graphically, you check the condition is true, execute the statements. There is some variable there which will make change the condition and go back till condition become false, proceed next. That is, so normally I don't use flowchart, but some people want to see this flowchart may be decent enough, good enough to deal with. Now let me give you, when you do a while loop to change conditions, sometimes we overlook things and make a mistake. Let's look at the following here. You can see my slide, the right part. There is input is basically a function that you type something, it will, and when I deal with the IO, I'll discuss more in detail. But right now you can say when you say input, it basically converts whatever you type in the console, it gives me. So when I say X is equal to input, let's say, please enter your name. It is waiting for me to enter the name. Now X becomes whatever I entered here, Ram, X becomes my name. When I say print X, it is a name. Now, every time you use input, it is always a string. And if you want to deal with decimal numbers, to convert into interfloat, if I were to say, let's say again, enter your age. Now I say 61. If I say X, but I cannot say X plus 2, Y is equal to X plus 2. Even though you see 61, it is still treated as a string. It's like as if I have signed Y is equal to, let's say 61 is a string, is not a number. So if I say X is equal to Y, this will be true because both are string. Now you want to use as a number to add, I can say Z is equal to int of X plus 3. Now Z would be 64. So if I'm entering something from console terminal using input, if it's an integer or a float, please use the integer function to convert that so that you don't make a mistake. So let's say I'm trying to print all even numbers up to n. So somebody says n10, I should print 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 till I get in there. Do you see any problem with this looping? Anyone?
So is it the factorial sign?
Which one? Just a minute. Which is factorial? Say no, this is not equal to, yeah. So for when you complete it, it is the what is called the exclamation mark. So in mathematics, we use factorial sign, but there's nothing called this sign in factorial in Python language. So for mathematics, we use that, but here it is exclamation mark not equal to. So this means even not equal to n. It is not the factorial here. It's something like, let's say 2 not equal to 3. This is true. Okay. So this is not equal to. Today is not.
Okay, sir.
Now can you tell me what is the problem with this loop?
Not equal to 10.
Yes, yes. Now what is this thing?
10, after you complete 2, 4, 6, 8,
Huh.
it will come 10 not equal to 10.
Right. So to print,
And
so it will not print 10. This is not
yeah,
saying,
that will not print 10.
up to 10, not including 10. Great. Anything else? I want to tell you what is the bad example. How do you do bad programming? What if I enter 11? What would happen? When I say ent input and somebody enters 11, what happened to this program?
So it will become an infinite loop.
It becomes an infinite loop. Perfect. That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. So look at, sometimes you make a mistake. So do not assume that user is always going to enter what you expect. User may give wrong data, and it is your programmer responsibility to make sure that your data is correct, your data is invalid, you reject it. So before you even proceed, you should make a check, is it even number or not? Or I should change my condition as long as, I need to start with 2, as long as even is less than n, so I can change the condition and then it would work fine. If you wanted to print this, as user could enter anything, you can basically say I could say less than equal to, this should be fine. Then doesn't matter whether give odd number, it will work fine. But if I'm just looking at this, so one has to be careful, and I see this kind of mistake quite often people making. Is that okay? So let me continue.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
What does the line even equal to even plus 2 mean?
Oh, okay. You are basically saying, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Correct? So even is a variable. We started with 2. I'm saying add 2 to this number. This become 4, and assign it to a variable which happens to be even. So that basically means even get overwritten. So first time my even is 2. When this line is executed, even becomes 4. I'm adding and overwriting the value, whatever that is, like erasing and overwriting a value of the variable. I can
Okay.
always do that when I assign this. So on the left side, whatever you write, and so left side is the variable, and right side is whatever expression we evaluate to, we evaluate this expression and assign it to variable here. This variable may happen to be the same, and we are overwriting that variable.
Okay. Till it reaches n, it will go.
And then keep on doing. Is that fine?
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Any other question here? Now look at for statement. For statement typically has 3 parts, even though it may be implicitly done in Python, but primarily you have what I call is an index variable. When I say for I in range something, that's the index variable. But Python does behave little differently than in the programming language, and I'll tell you what we do. Then you use the while loop, you check the conditions, and then you modify the index variable, execute the statement. They were typically done. So question is, when do we use while loop and when do you use for loop? If you know the number of iterations in advance, total number of iterations, then you should use for loop. If you don't know the total number of iterations, then you should use while loop. So put in a condition, change the variable value. So while loop to be used when you don't know the total number of count of iterations. If you don't know the count of iterations, then you should use while loop. But if you know the count of iterations, let's say it's a print first 10 integers. I know that I need to print 10 times, so I know the number of iterations 10, then I use a for loop. I would say, like previous case, I said print all even numbers up to n. One way is if I can determine a count, the count is equal to n by 2, starting from 2, then I can use a for loop. Or if I don't know that how long I'll keep on going, then I could do a while loop. So I can do, sometimes you can do with both, sometimes you can't. So you make a logical decision and decide how would you like to do your for loop or a while loop, whatever that is. A while loop when you don't know the iterations, for loop is when you know the iterations. So let's look at the few use cases. Let's say I want to write first n powers of 2. 2 raised to power 0, 2 raised to power 1, 2 raised to power 2. I know that I need to write n powers. So I can use because I know my count of iterations. I need to do n plus 1 iterations, 0 to n. So hence, I do use a for loop. Now, next question is, write the largest power of 2 greater than n. That means if n is 30, largest power of 2 would be 32. If n is, let's say, 65, largest power would be 128. So really, I don't know unless I go into some mathematics, do logarithm something. But in general, I don't know what the power would be, and then I would use a while loop. So logic would be, I start with power is equal to 1. I check, is 2 raised to 1 less than n? If yes, increase the power by 1, repeat. Now power becomes 2. At this point, I start with 1. Now power becomes 2. And let's say n is 10. Somebody enters n is 10. Now 2 power 2 is less than 10, which is 4. I go back. Now it becomes 3. 2 raised to power 3 is 8, which is again less than 8. I'll continue. Then my power becomes 4. 2 raised to power 4 is 16. It is not less than 10. So I break, and then I basically say print power of 2 is something of this kind. So in this case, I really don't know how long I need to repeat the loop. And rather than use a while loop, but if I know the number of iterations, I should do a for loop. And that's the basic premise. We should decide when to use for loop or when to use a while loop.
So could you just repeat for while loop?
This one or this one?
So the second one.
Sorry, okay. Yeah, Anuj. So let's say
Yes,
I
sir.
want to print, let's say my example is, I want to print largest power of 2, first largest power of 2 greater than 100. 100 is the number. I say n is equal to 100. I want to print largest power of 2, or sorry, not largest. This is but smallest power of 2 is a bad thing. I should say smallest power of 2 which is greater than n. N is 100. What is smallest power of 2 which is greater than n? Anuj?
So 2 to the power 7.
2 to the power 7, which is 128.
Yes, sir.
So I should be able to print 2 raised to power 128. Now, how do I
Yes,
go
sir.
about it? So either I should know that I need to iterate 7 times, then I can find out, but that will require a different mathematical operation. So in general, what I'll do, I'll keep computing powers of 2, 1, power 2, power 2, 2 raised to power 3, 2 raised to power 4, 2 raised to power 5, and keep checking, is this greater than n? If it is,
Yes, sir.
continue there. What I'm doing here is, if you look at, I start with power 1, 2 raised to power 1, which is equal to 2. Yes, it is
Yes.
less than 100. Continue. I change power. Power becomes now 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. I come back
Yes,
to my
sir.
while loop. 2 raised to power 2 is 4. 4 is still less than 100. I continue. Now my power becomes 3. 2 raised to power 3 is equal to 8. 8 is still less than 100. I continue. Come here. Power becomes 4. 2 raised to power 4 is 16. It's less than n. I continue. Power becomes now 5. I keep repeating. So now you look, when powers become at this point 5, 6, 2 raised to power 6 is 64. It is still less. I come inside. Now power becomes 7. 2 raised to 7 is less than n. No, the condition fails. The moment condition fails, I come out of while loop. So let me clean this mess. Come out of while loop means, remember scoping, we said the spaces decide the scope of the while loop. Now this print statement is outside the while loop because this is not with the indentation. So while loop is only here. This print is outside the while loop. So at this point, I know my power is 7. So I can print power of 2 greater than n is 2 raised to power. I use while loop because I don't know how many times I need to trace. Because I don't know the number of iterations. If I knew that it is 7, I could use a for loop as well. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
So normally looking at the use case, you decide, do you know the number of iterations or you don't? If you know, use a for loop. If you don't, you determine runtime. You define a condition. When you define a condition, there has to be some statement inside which will change the condition. Otherwise, it becomes a infinite loop. Okay. Now let's look at write sum of first and even numbers. Now, should I use a for loop or should I use a while loop?
So for loop.
For loop, because I know it is n even numbers. So what should happen for I in range n starting from 0? I would say sum is equal to sum plus 2 star I plus 1, because when I say I in range n, the values are I value takes 0, 1, 2, up to n minus 1. So I need to add 2 plus 4 plus 6 up to n. That's the reason of doing I plus 1. I repeat it and then I say print sum. So this is a for loop. Write a product of first and natural numbers. Should I use a for loop or should I use a while loop? Pranav? Is Pranav there? Do you want to answer Pranav? Pranav doesn't seem to be there. Okay. Shreyas? You have to enable your mic. Your mic is in mute. Srizna, should we use while loop or a for loop in this case?
For loop.
For
So
loop,
for loop, because you know the number of iterations.
because you know the number of iterations.
Sorry, sir, I got to get what is
That's
using.
okay. So product is equal to 1 for I in range. Remember, if you're doing a product, you should never use the value 0, because the moment you use the value 0, every product multiplication becomes 0. This is what you don't want. So be careful there. Some 0 is fine. When you multiply, 0 is not fine. You keep multiplying and you are done. Let's look at, I want to compute a square root up to 10 decimal places using Newton's method. How many of you know about Newton-Raphson method of computing square root of a number? Anyone knows heard about it?
No, sir.
No, okay. So the simple formula. Let's say I want to compute the square root of some value called num. Till 10 decimal places. So what you do is, I say temp, some value temp minus num upon temp, as this is 10 raised to power minus 10. That means 10 decimal places. And then if it is less than this, so they want you to repeat till this condition meets. If this difference happen to be less than 10 decimal places, I stop. Otherwise, I continue. And what I do continue, update the temp value to num upon temp plus temp upon 2.0. And there has to be, so num by temp plus temp upon 2.0. And this is what will keep repeating it. So if you look at the code, I start value is equal to num, and I'm checking is value minus num upon value greater than this decimal place, or I could say not less than. We are going to repeat until. Since I don't know the number of times that will happen, I keep repeating. I say value is equal to value plus number upon value and keep repeating, and that is when I'll basically get that. Sorry. So here, this will Rangakuta, this called Newton-Raphson method. Those engineering students will study that, and this way you can compute a square root of any number. You can write a simple program, and program basically would work. If I want to get 5 decimal places, I say 10 is to power minus 5. That also would work, depending on what you want to do. So point is, I don't know how many times I need to run this step. This step particularly, I don't know how many times I need to run. Hence, I need to have a while loop. If I knew how many times, then I can do a for loop. And that's the basic difference we need to look at. Let's say I want to compute prime factorization of n. Let's say n is 24. So prime factor of 24 is 2 into 2 into 2 into 2 into 3. 3, 2, and 3. For a given number, let's say my number happens to be 48. If I need to compute something, I don't know how many prime factors would be there. That means I should be using a while loop and not a for loop. How should I start? I start with a number 2, keep dividing it till it gets divided. Once it gets not divided, I increment the number and keep repeating. So look at the code will look like as the following. I start with the value, whatever my value is. My first factor is 2 because remember my question is compute prime factors. So 24, if it is 36, I want to print 2, 2, 3, 3. If number happens to be, let's say 50, I want to print 2, 5, 5 or whatever. These are the prime factors I want to print. So let's say how does my code look like? So I would say my value, or if let's say my value happens to be 53. 53, there is no prime factor, it itself is a factor, I should print 53 itself because there is no factorization of it, it's a prime number. So I start with a value, I say as long as value is greater than factor, it may be divided, it may not be. What should I do? Check. Value remainder factor is equal to 0. That means factor divides it. Print factor and change the value, basically value to value by the factor. And go back to my loop. If the value is not divided with the factor 2 means look at the next number. Then I say factor is equal to factor plus 1. And keep repeating, and this will basically give me all the prime factors. Any want to go through and be clear about this loop conditions? This computing all the prime factors. A simple loop, while loop, because I don't know number of times I need to trade, number of factors will be there. So I put a condition, and when does condition terminate? Either the value will change or factor would change, or both might change. Because only then it will condition will change, otherwise it will same condition there and then it will work fine. Sometimes you don't know, just want to keep doing it. Let's say I want to ask user to enter the numbers. I want to, let's say, print a square root of any, or I want to compute a square of any number. And I want user to decide till you want to practice. So I would say till you enter -1, I'll keep enter the number, and if you want to stop, you enter -1. So now I don't know how many times loop has to run because user doesn't know how many times want to run. So I'll probably use a what is called something like infinite looping. So let me say just do that part. Just 1 minute.
So could you just repeat the -1 thing you said?
I'm just coming to that. So I'm trying to make a better screen. Otherwise, my one. Just give me a minute. I want to see can. So that is scroll by something. Can you see this screen? So I want to ask user to enter a number till he says -1, then stop, and want to print a square. So I would say while true is an infinite loop. I don't know how long user wants to check the numbers. So we would say x is equal to integer input enter number -1 for exit. And then I check if x equal to -1, that means user want to exit. I would say exit, else print x star x, and I'm done. So if user will keep on entering, as long as user enters, let's say 2, it will print 4, user enter 4, it will print 16, user enter 7, I'll print 49. If I print -1, it exits. So look what is happening in this case. I don't know what my condition is. So I'm doing infinite looping. So sometimes if you here I'm exiting a program, but most of the time you want to come into the loop, use a statement called a break. So if I were to do that, so my program would be want to continue. Let's say thank you for using it. So my program look like the following. Let me just say what is going back there. So just give me a minute. Okay, let me come here. That should be fine. I'll change it. I'm doing that so that you can probably see the font part of it. Can you see, let's say I'm saying while, can you see this, or is it too small?
It's fine, sir.
It's fine? Okay. Or do I need to make, let me little bigger. I think it's a bit too small. Yeah, this should be fine. While true, the infinite condition, I say x is equal to int input, and I'm saying enter number and then I'd say if and this is basically enter number -1 to exit. If I'm saying x equal to -1, I would say break because I don't want to continue, else print x star x. And now that user has done, I come out of while loop, I would say print thanks for using the program. So sometimes you don't know the number of iterations, not even if there's no condition, and the user input decide the condition. So run an infinite loop, and inside when you want to come out of the loop, do a break. So anytime you use a break, you come out of the whatever the loop is, and that's what you come out and then continue. So in this case, only time you can use is the basically while loop. That's what I'm trying to make up. Is that okay? I've understood the program. Somebody somebody asking me white minus 1. Is Anuj or who is asking me?
Yes, sir, I had asked.
Yeah, so understood is clear now?
Yes, sir.
Let's continue. So already talked about it, okay. So this is fine either way. Now other thing is, normally when you don't use tab, use spaces, you always be better off, because depending on editor, if you're sharing a program, you might use tab to be 4 spaces, other person may be using 2 spaces, very indentation to go for a toss. The strong recommendation is any program you write in any programming language, don't use tab, use spaces. And sometimes can a statement with multiple lines? So you have to be a little careful there, depending on how to do things. It may give you error, it may work fine. Let me give example there. Like I want to write n is equal to 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. Since I started a bracket, this is fine. If I don't do a bracket and then do this, it will give me an error. Let me give the example there. Let's say n is equal to 1 plus 2 plus 3, and I want to do 4. This is fine. Sorry, oh, I didn't even do. Now, if I say plus 4, it is not part of the n. But if I were to say n is equal to, in bracket, the bracket is not closed, so I should continue, and now n should be 10. But if you're doing like this, you expect something to, now again expect something, so you need to decide when you want to continue. So either if you have something long and you want to really break the line, or part of the same line, then use what is called a backspace character. So I could say backslash character. That means my line should continue, but nothing should be after the backslash. And then I should say 4, and then you say n is, or I can say plus 4 plus 5 plus 6. I want to still continue, but puts on the next line. Then I should put this backslash character. That means, so the moment the last letter on the line is a backslash, that means the next line is part of this line. And that is what we are talking about. Let's say 7. What happened? Did I do a mistake there? Oh, sorry. Do you know what the mistake is here? I didn't do a plus sign there. Okay. So what really became is, it became 6 plus 7, which gives an error. So you have to be careful when you want to continue on the same line or the next line. Use always the last character, and you would always be much better. Sometimes you want to continue empty statement, like you're checking something, and once you have nothing to be done, pass. Use a statement, something called a pass, because if condition is true, you don't want to do anything. If it is false, do something. So if you don't want to do anything, positive cases, just use your pass and it should be fine. So this is what the pass statement should do. And this again, normally condition use if is a Boolean expression, true, false, something, because it should always be true or false, and execute that. But normally, if you look at integer, 0 is taken as a false, or any non-empty string is considered true, or empty string is considered as false. But don't use those. Use really true and false condition, and then it should be fine. So actually, let's say I can say if 0, print 0 is false, else print 0 is true. One minute, yeah. You know what is happening? Did I made a goof up here? Can somebody explain me what is the wrong in this? 0 is false. 0 is not true.
0 is actually false, so it
Yeah.
can click the
So why didn't it print false?
Yeah.
Because
So first should be an else.
because 0 is
False.
false, so it became if
Yeah,
false.
because 0 is false, so it executes the else statement. So this is a bad program. So ideally it should have been, let's say I can do this if 1, I can say 1 is true, else 1 is false. Sorry. So any non-zero value is taken as true, any zero value is taken as false. So normally don't use those, only special cases do that. And same is for the empty string. Sometimes people make a space. Space is not an empty string. So let me say that. So let me go back. If this is an empty string, no content, this is false. But if I were to enter a space, this becomes true. But if I had empty string, then it will not print anything but this false. So please understand the difference between the two. Sometimes people think it was empty, no, this is not empty string. It is a string containing one space character. So there's a difference between empty string versus the string having one space character. Even 0.0 is considered false. So look at that way, that's what you should be really concerned about. Other thing which is different from other conditions, other programming language, let's look at this. Now look what I'm doing here. For I in range 10, I'm printing I and changing the value of I to I plus 2. Most of the programming languages would print 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, something of this kind. In Python, it is different. Any thought what the printing would be? Anyone like to try or analyze, or let me run it and show you?
It will have 0, 3, 6.
No, I'll just show you. For I in range 10, print I is equal to I plus 2. See what you print. This behavior you'll see in Python, not in other languages. Let me tell you what is happening. When you say range 10, let's say x is equal to range 10. Now x is basically, range gives me a, so range to this, and so essentially this range, and it kind of becomes, when I iterate over, it gives me a list. And list is 0 to 9. So I'm essentially saying, when I say range 10, it is as, when I say for I in range 10, it is equal to for I in list. This is what it basically means. What is happening? I'm saying I should take a value from this list. Doesn't matter what happens inside. You can change the value, but when it will come back, it will take the next element. It will ignore whatever has been done there. Because the initialization, it looks at this and take the value from the list. And whatever the values are, it will take from there. So you will see normally this is happening. When does the loop terminate? When the last element is over. Since I'm doing a range 10, it will be over. So when I say for I in range 10, It prints I. But what is the value of I now? It will be 10. So in the last element, what you get there?
So how was it line?
0, 1, 2, 3. It iterates over and gets the last element in the list. This is what I basically get. No.
Okay, sir.
So in a for loop, what I'm trying to say, if the for loop we are changing this, if you were to even what is called change this index variable, it does not matter because next time it comes to the loop, it will basically take the next element from this range or list and not what is inside. They understand that part of a difference. That's the point I'm trying to make there. So question is, let's look at the following program. Any thought what this program would do? Take a 2-minute mental
It
break.
adds.
Can you give me the numbers? What the output would be?
1, 1,
Yeah,
2,
yeah.
3, 5, 8, and so on.
Do you know what is that series
It
you are saying?
adds
It gives you 1,
Fibonacci series.
1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and so on. Do you know what this series is called?
Fibonacci.
Fibonacci series. So normally, one way of add two last numbers is another way of writing Fibonacci series. Confusing? Bad way of doing it. But if you really want to confuse your boss and trying to somebody this thing, you can do this. And if teacher gives you program assignment, it will take time for him to decide what is you're trying to do. At first, I say, what is this nonsense wrong program?
So how did you get 2 1s?
Repeat again.
So I don't understand. How did you get the Fibonacci sequence?
Okay, let's look at what is happening here. F is 0 to start with, and G is
Yes.
1 to start with. Are we okay now?
Yes,
We are
sir.
repeating this loop 10 times because of n. What is f becomes now? First time you come, when I is equal to 0, what is f becomes? F becomes 1. What does G becomes? 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So print f. You go back, I is equal to 1. F becomes f plus G. So when I is equal to 1, next loop, I becomes 1. Next loop, what does f becomes? Now f is 1, G is 0. F is 1, G is 0. So f becomes 1 plus 0 is equal to 1. What does G becomes? 1 minus 0 because G is 0, which is 1. And I print f. So first time print f. Now both f is 1 and G is 1. Third time you come in, f becomes 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. G becomes 2 minus 1 is equal to 1. You print f, it becomes 2. Third time you come in, f is 2. So what does f becomes? 2 plus 1, which is this, is equal to 3. What does G becomes? 3 minus 1 is equal to 2. So look, I'm basically backtracking. F is always the last number in the series. So my series, so once I do, F is always this and G is always this. That's what basically do. Does that explain?
Yes, sir.
So this is the another way of doing so-called your Fibonacci series. So sorry. So this is let me come back some exercises. So first is compose a program that takes n as an input. Either you can do through program or you can this thing writes a n by n table such that there is a star in row I and column J if GCD, greatest common divisor. For example, if you look at 3, 6, greatest common divisor is 3. If I were to take 6, 8, greatest common divisor is 2. So if there is no
So HCF, right?
huh?
HCF, right? GCD is HCF, highest common factor.
Yeah, highest common factor. Yeah, you can say that. So yeah, which is same thing is right. Yeah, greatest common divisor. Yeah. No, highest common factor. The LCM. Yeah, HCF, LCM. Finite is HCF. That's right. Yeah, highest common factor. Okay. The question I'm asking is, if GCD of I and J, so you draw, let's say n is 8, you draw an 8 by 8 kind of matrix. If I comma J, if GCD of I and J is 1, that means they're relatively prime, print a star, print this thing star, otherwise, if GCD of I and J is 1, they're relatively prime, print a star. If this is not relatively prime, print a space. So for the 1 and this, we can probably ignore, but all other numbers starting from 2, like 2 it can divide by 2, but 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are relatively prime, because GCD would be 1, so print a star. 2 and 4, GCD is not 1, but GCD is 2, so print a space. 2, 5, it is relatively prime, because GCD 2, 5 is 1, so print a star, so on and so forth. So that's the question. It's a simple for loop you need to write and do that. Okay, 2 for loops. Is question clear? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Anuj, clear?
Yes, sir.
So this is question number 1. Second, you know all Pythagoras theorem. Anyone here who doesn't know Pythagoras theorem? Shreyas? Sundar sir, I trust you remember Pythagoras theorem?
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember.
Remember. So for a triangle, which is basically, if this is A, this is B, this is C, we know C square is equal to A square plus B square. So question I'm asking is, given n, take all the numbers less than equal to n such that you can print a Pythagoras theorem values for them. Like if n is 25, first number is 5, 5 square is 3 square plus 4 square, 10 square is 6 square plus 8 square, 13 square is 5 square plus 12 square. So using your loop, when you find print a Pythagoras theorem, the triplet. That's the question I'm asking. This again requires basically for loop. And if you look at 25, 2 things are applicable. One is 7 square plus 24 square, other is 15 square plus 20 square. So you print both. That's the put that. So given number n, starting from 5 square till all that, you print the number such that the c square is equal to a square plus b square. So you can get all the Pythagoras. Are we okay? Any questions about this? No. Next question is more interesting there. You know what Ramanujan story is? How do you know about Ramanujan, our
Yes, sir.
mathematician?
Think about the car number.
Car number. So when he went to Thomas Hardy in UK, Thomas Hardy came in a taxi and he said, today my taxi number was 1729, which is a very boring number. The Ramanujan responded, no, It is a very interesting number. Why? Because the smallest number such that it is sum of cubes of two different numbers. So 17 is the first number, which is sum of 1 cube plus 12 cube and 9 cube plus 10 cube. 10 cube is 1000, 9 cube is 729. So the smallest number, which is sum of two cubes of two different numbers. 1729. 9 cube is 729. Okay. Now, question is, given the n, let's say I give n 20,000. Can you find all such numbers which satisfy this property? Okay. Is question clear? It will take a while. You basically need 4 loops, 4 for loops, each running to this, computing a square. So one is A is 1 to 1, B is 1 to 1, or C is 1 to 1, or D is 1 to 1, and look at, then you find those numbers. Something of this kind, as I can probably show you if I can, so that, let me say where I am. So this is, okay, so let me go there. Let's say 10,000, it gives me 2 numbers. If I were to give 20,000, and Mr. Sundar has given a suggestion that I should give answer to these homeworks probably after 2 or 3 lectures. So maybe after 2 days, I'll give these programs as well. But meanwhile, you can keep sending me what you want. So point is the exercise clear? That's what I basically wanted to do, these 3 exercises. Fourth one is interesting. Those who want to get a little more excited about how does you want to play with the list and the numbers is something called, look at it, let me go back and give it, then you can say that. Let's say you are given a grid like this. And you are at the center of the grid. And randomly you can decide to go right or left or up or down. You can make a random decision. Now question is, given the grid size, we're at the center. So these are n and 2n plus 1 grid points. Randomly if you decide how long it will take to reach the boundary. Where randomly you can go left, up, down. If you take randomly deciding, some point in time you'll reach a boundary. Either you reach the top boundary, or you reach the right boundary, or you reach the left boundary, or you reach the bottom boundary. So how many walks you do on the average to reach a boundary? And that is what the question is. So you can look at the reference which I have given you called random walk. To now each of the directions, left, right, up and down, the probability of 1/4. So you can take the probability doing a random number between 1 to 5, it will give 1 to 4, and then decide previous moves. The question is, how long it will take you to take a random walk to hit the boundary of a square. You run multiple times and see what the average is. So this is, if you do first 3, it's a little tougher. It's an interesting game to figure out. And last one is an interesting question, which again, a lot of us make a mistake there. This was, I think, sometime in a game. So if you realize, it is like this. Let's say contestant is, so if the game is happening, let's say there are 3 doors, or let's say 3 boxes. One of the boxes has some 100 rupees note in it. Now, let's say I am the game show and you are a participant. So these are the boxes A, B, C. Now, this is just general to look at the conditions, for loop or something. Let's say run the logic 100 times. It's basically to understand the looping. The question is, I'm a contestant, sorry, I'm a game show. So I know that one of the boxes has this rupees note and I know which one has the money in it. Money could be in A, money could be in B, money could be in C. I know as an organizer, but you are a participant, you don't know. I give you a choice, pick a box. If you pick a box and box has money, you get it. If you don't pick a box, you lose. You don't get it. The question is, let's say you pick a box, assuming that there's a money is in C box. This has 100 rupees. Now, if as a user, as a player, you happen to choose box A, but a box is not opened yet. Now I, as a host, I open the box B and so look, B has no money. That means money is either in A or in C. You as a player chosen box A, but box A is not opened yet. But I know that C had the money, so I open the box B and say, look, B has no money. That means money is either in box A or in box C. And now by asking you as a player, do you want to make a change in choice? Do you want to switch to C or do you want to continue with A? So question is, what is the probability that if you continue with A, you'll get the money, or what is the probability if you change the choice to C, you'll get money? Which is the better probability? So one is, it doesn't matter whether you change the option, probability are same. Other is, if you don't change the option, you have better chance in A. Other is, if you change the option, better chance in C. So question is, can you verify this, which is a better probability? But anyone can tell me, when I show you, should you make a choice change or no? And would like to answer?
No.
No? Is question clear?
Yes.
Yes.
We need to make choice change.
Why? Does it give better probability?
Yeah, that gives you better probability.
Why?
No, the probability decreases.
Can you tell me why?
If you change, probability decreases. If after B is opened, A still has a high probability of having the money.
No, because you don't know. Money could be A, money could be in C.
No, but when you start off, each box has a probability of 1 by 3, right?
Right, yeah.
After B is opened,
Yeah.
is it 50? So that there's a 50% chance it's an A or C.
So the probability is the same, then you're saying. So whether I make a choice change or not,
No.
does it
So,
matter?
but no, because if you see the actual overall probability is 2 by 3 without B, considering B in the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So when you
answer is right. If you make a choice change, probability is higher, it is 2 by 3. If you don't change the option, probability is 1 by 3. Let me explain to you. Let's say where the money could be. So let's say one is empty, empty, money. One is empty, money, empty, money, empty, empty. These are the boxes A, B, sorry. These are the boxes A, B, C. Now, as a user, let's say you've chosen A. Now, given A, probability is 1 by 3 for any of the box. Now, look what has happened. If you change, now, as a game player, I know that where the money is. Now I know money could be in A, money could be in B and C. If money is in the A, I can open the B. If money is in A, I can open the B, and user if changes C, he loses the money. If user chooses A, he makes the money. But in other two cases, look at it here. In this case, I open this box. If user change the box, he gets the money. If second case, I will open this box and user changes, he gets the money. But in this case, if user changes, he doesn't get the money. So in two cases, if he makes a choice change, he gets the money. But if it doesn't change, he doesn't get the money. So probability of changing a choice is 2/3. Probability of not changing it is 1/3. And that is what you need to basically write a program. Look at it, you can search it out, that programs available, but understand the question is, even mathematically we know, how do you figure out, run the logic this times. So you know the price. One is you write a program, you don't change and see does it get the money. Other is you make the choice change, see does it get the money and count. And that is what this. So basically we run it 1,000 times, about 330 times, you will not get the money, and 666 times you'll get the money on the average. And this was the exercise. That's all for today. Anything else? I'm done. Only thing else I would say is on the Cisco Net Acad, I had something to basically say here. Please go through your what is called module 1 and run a quiz of 1.4.1 and 2.2.1.1. Run for quiz yourself. There are 10 questions each. And tomorrow I would like you to do the online test, which is about 20 minutes, and do that test so that you can run it and see where you are. So I recommend you tomorrow, by tomorrow, run this quiz yourself and see how well you are doing. That will consider the concept and this should be fine. Any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, then tomorrow we'll basically continue. And tomorrow, what will I cover? I have given you the topic list. I send you in the email what is that I covered. So 1 minute. Yeah, tomorrow I'll cover more detailed in functions about the parameter passing and scoping of variables, because this is probably most in 11th, 12th class use functions, you get confused. So I'll specify the local and global function with some examples. They will primarily cover functions tomorrow. Okay, so do the homework, whatever you can, share it. And those who want to get my view, please don't send me screenshots, send me the actual program, because then I can run it and tell you what that would be. And by tomorrow, I'll try to give you some solved programs of last two exercises of lecture 1 and lecture 2. And we'll look at continue with that. Thank you. Anything else, will ask me to fill questions. This should be fine. Okay then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.